All right, this is our Worm Factory 360. I've had to bring it inside because it's gotten down in the 30s for a couple nights here in Nashville. I have it in the kitchen, just inside my back door, and I'm probably going to have to move this. The big debate right now is what I'm going to do for the winter. I started this maybe a month ago, and the issues are that inside, it's just messy. But more importantly, anytime I take the top off, I usually have 1 or 2 or 3 cats trying to help me. And I'm really thinking, I'm trying to decide whether I'm just going to move this to like an 18-gallon tote. It can't stay in this position anyway because my heating vent is right there. So I don't want all that heat blowing up on the worms. They need to be in a more protected area. And since we're doing virtual schooling, my son's in the kitchen all the time. So a lot of the places that we would have to kind of tuck this away, I just don't have right now. So I'll probably end up moving either the Worm Factory as is to the bathroom, or taking everything and putting it into a tote and then putting it in the bathroom. And that way I could shut the cats out, do the work, clean up, do it in the tub, clean up really fast. And it really doesn't take long. There's only about 4 months. By March, it's pretty much nice enough to put things back outside and not have them freeze. So it's really only about 4 months. The bathroom's dark. I mean, I think there's lots of probably good reasons to go ahead and move these guys. But anyway, that's what I'm trying to figure out today. In the meantime, I'm also trying to figure out, I'd started a second tray and just kind of trying to look and see how that's going. When it was outside, I had an issue with, I noticed I had three different times I opened it and I had slugs. And so I've had to pick them out and throw them out. And I've also been fighting black soldier fly larvae. And probably about every time that I would open this, there would be 25 or 30 that my son and I would put gloves on and pick out and throw out into the yard. So I've noticed since I moved it in, they don't seem to be rebreeding as fast. And so I'm kind of thinking that actually having it inside is not a bad thing. But with the Worm Factory, it's open on the sides, just enough that, you know, small insect can get in there. And they do. I noticed the other day, I had put a pretty wet feeding in this the day before. I had a lot of mites. So I went ahead and set just a sprinkle of a mix on top. And that seems to have kept the mites down pretty good. Oh, November 9th, that's my birthday. So anyway, here is the top bin. You can see little guys moving down. I did a huge guy across the top. I have little hands, but oh, I scared him. He's about the length of my hand. Oops, not figures. I do that every time. Oh, look at this guy. He's all stretched out. I did this big, huge feeding on this side the other day. It was nasty. I would keep an inside compost. Yeah, there's some black soldier flies that larvae. They love avocados, I've learned. See them moving around. And I really read mixed things. I read that you don't want them in your bins, that they'll take over. Yeah, see them popping up now. So what I've been doing is just picking them out and trying to at least stay ahead of them. This is an avocado shell. No, that's a tea bag. Tea bag. This is the avocado shell. It's got the black soldier fly larvae in it. But I had put this huge wet feeding in here. And still some coffee grounds and tea bags. But it's not super wet. I mean, it's not dry either. These lumps are the tea. Where is that? Yeah, that's a tea bag. Just takes them a little bit longer to break down. So I'm pretty impressed, although I figured that the liquid would probably drain. And now I'm getting on the floor. Would drain down to the tray below, which we'll take a look at. There's so many things I don't tell you about a Worm Factory 360. You know, the idea sounds great. But what happens is you try to check on the row below and you've got worms hanging everywhere. Now, if you give them a minute, you can see this guy going back up. They're heading back up. And the ones that were on top. But there's usually somebody who ends up on the floor. When I fed this 2 days ago, I was really excited because they've gone down into hiding. I didn't have a whole ton of black soldier fly larvae right here. But I noticed when I lifted this up just a minute ago, they were all clustered under here again. And then that's one of my concerns is that once they're, yeah, you can see them moving right there. Once I have this in the house and they fly out, then they're going to be flying in the house, not outside. So anyway, I'm not really sure. I mean, I'm just trying to keep it out. We have 3 cats. This is Kaylee. And we have Katniss, our big white cat, and then we have Dobby, who didn't want to leave it alone and had to be put in a bedroom for now. So anyway, so these are just kind of the things I'm trying to figure out what to do, like what is the right solution for these guys. What I've been doing is just picking them out as I find them. I figure that way the population doesn't explode, but I probably get 25 or 30 every time. And they're extra wiggly this week. I like to check down here and just kind of see what the consistency is. This is the 3rd time I've had worms. This is the 1st time that I feel like it's been this successful. So I like to check the level and just see. I did this really wet feeding, and so I figured a lot of it might be coming down to this level. It's a cocoon. So I'm just kind of trying to figure out the weight of the top bin presses down and compresses. You can see the grid pattern in the newspaper. Here's another cocoon. So I noticed, like, you can really see, like, over here how flat it is, not where I've gone through and messed with it. So I like to come in and try to aerate it just a little bit so it's not so wet, especially because I had done such a wet feeding the other day. Now, this level is a lot wetter than the one above it, so I'm half tempted to reverse the order of the trays and see if I can get this one to dry out a little bit and convince the worms to move to more to the top layer. I really think this is mostly composted at this point. There's some bedding left, but I'm just trying to make sure I don't let it get rancid and it doesn't have any smell, just the earthy smell it's supposed to. There's a tea bag. We go through a lot of tea. So the tea seems to compost quickly, but not the... Anyway, it's pretty flaky. I'm pretty happy. I mean, I don't exactly know what I'm looking for, but there's a little guy. He's not quite as big. So, lots and lots of cocoons. I actually pulled a bunch of cocoons out of here the other day to start a cocoon bin, and I'll check in on that in a little bit and see. But I started with 750 African night crawlers. Uncle Jim's sent me an email and they had a special, and if you bought 500 you got 250 bonus. And the African night crawlers I figured would go through food a little bit faster. One of my goals all along was to try to not throw away any kitchen scraps. And we've got a lot of stuff in the freezer, more things I could put in the freezer. So I'm trying to get these guys to go through food a little bit faster. I thought maybe they would go through food faster than a red wiggler. And I do think that they are. In the past, I've ordered red wigglers with European night crawlers and had a mix. And this time I just went straight European night crawler. Although now I'm all anxious to try another bin. So my next bin is probably going to be red wigglers, and then after that, I would really like to do African night crawlers, I think now. And I think with like 3 bins going, we would probably get through the food scraps that we're going through in a week. So that's really kind of my goal. I'm not really trying to grow it past that, because like anything else, it does take time to take care of it. It's not completely, you know, between gathering the carbon sources and then preparing the food scraps and making eggs, making the mix. It's just, there's a lot of steps that do go into it. It's not quite as just throw it in and don't think about it as you might think. So anyway, I'm enjoying it, and so far I feel fairly successful. So I'm off to, I think, a pretty decent start. Here's a baby saying, okay, put me back in the box. I'm gonna do that. But I just wanted to show that when I started poking around on this other side, that it is also covered in worms. This is the paper I had on top of it originally that there was really starting to decompose. More tea bags. But just, I mean, it gets wetter down here in the middle. But they seem happy, as much as I can tell about worm happiness. There's lots and lots of worms. Lots of cocoons. Here's one. Let's see it on my middle finger. There it is. It's not as yellow, it's pinker, which means it's getting closer to hatching. There's lots. Here's a little. Let's see if I can get. Yeah, there's one that's more freshly laid because it's yellow. And there's a pink one on my finger, which might be the one I just dropped in there. The most important thing here at keeping up the worms is keeping the worms alive and happy. And so far, I think that's happening. So I'm gonna fluff the bottom a little bit more and let it sit for a couple more days. Even though I really want to give them another feeding, I know it's better to underfeed. So anyway, they'll get a big, great feeding this weekend. Okay, thanks, bye.